Imagine being 5 years old, and there isn't a single toy anywhere in the world. No Lego, no stuffed animals, not even a ball. So what did ancient kids actually do all day? And why does the answer sound surprisingly familiar? For most of human history, there were no countries, no borders, no kings, no national flags. If you walked across a valley 20,000 years ago, you weren't entering another nation. You were entering somebody else's territory, and that could get you killed. It's easy to imagine prehistoric people living peacefully in small tribes, hunting animals, gathering berries, and sitting around campfires every night. The reality was almost certainly much more complicated. Humans have always been social, but we've also always been territorial. And that's where the story begins. Because prehistoric tribes didn't go to war over oil, or politics, or religion. They fought over something much simpler: survival. Imagine you're living at the end of the last ice age. Your tribe consists of maybe 30 or 40 people. Every person matters. Every hunter counts. Every child represents the future of the group. Everything you need exists somewhere out there. And every other tribe needs exactly the same things. The same river, the same hunting grounds, the same edible plants, the same shelter. Now imagine the animals you've been hunting suddenly disappear. Maybe they've migrated. Maybe another group reached them first. Suddenly, your children are hungry. The question isn't whether you want someone else's territory. The question is whether you can survive without it. Now, here's something surprising. For most prehistoric groups, fighting was probably the last option, not the first. Every adult who dies weakens the tribe. Lose one experienced hunter and everyone eats less. Even the winning side loses people. That's an expensive victory. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies often find that groups avoid direct conflict whenever possible. Moving away is usually safer. Negotiating is usually smarter. Waiting is often better than fighting. But there were moments when moving wasn't possible. A drought shrinks every water source. A valley becomes the only place where game still gathers. A cave provides the only reliable shelter for miles. Now there is nowhere else to go. And that's when violence becomes much more likely. Let's talk about territory. Modern humans think of land as property. Ancient humans probably thought of it as memory. Imagine you've spent generations learning one landscape. You know where fish gather every spring, which valley keeps snow the longest, where medicinal plants grow after heavy rain, where predators usually hunt. That knowledge takes decades to build. Losing that territory doesn't just mean losing land. It means losing everything you've learned about surviving there. Two tribes aren't just fighting over dirt. They're fighting over thousands of accumulated observations, over knowledge, over survival itself. Now here's where archaeology gives us some fascinating clues. For many years, researchers believed prehistoric humans lived mostly in peaceful communities. Then archaeologists began uncovering ancient skeletons. Some still contained stone arrowheads embedded in the bones. Others carried clear signs of powerful impacts to the skull. Entire burial sites revealed groups of people whose remains point to the same period of extreme conflict. One of the most famous examples comes from the site of Jebel Sahaba in the Nile Valley. Dating back roughly 13,000 years, dozens of skeletons preserve evidence of repeated encounters involving stone projectiles. Some individuals even show healed injuries. They recovered from one dangerous encounter, only to experience another sometime later. Think about what that tells us. This wasn't a single disagreement. It wasn't one isolated event. It may represent generations of recurring tension between neighboring groups. Organized conflict in some form was already becoming part of human life. But here's the important question. Were prehistoric tribes in conflict because humans are naturally aggressive? Or because their environment kept forcing impossible choices? Imagine food suddenly becomes scarce. Your children haven't eaten properly in days. Then you discover another camp with storage pits still full. Suddenly, taking resources begins to look very different. From their perspective, they're protecting their future. From yours, you're trying to keep your own family going. Both sides believe they're making the only choice left. Now here's something many people overlook. Prehistoric conflict probably looked nothing like the massive battles you imagine. No marching armies, no enormous battlefields. Most tribes were tiny. Losing even a few experienced members could permanently weaken the entire community. Instead, conflict was likely made up of quick raids, surprise encounters, nighttime incursions, rapid strikes followed by immediate withdrawal into the landscape. Move fast, accomplish the objective. Avoid unnecessary exposure. Now let's talk about retaliation. Because once conflict begins, it rarely stays simple. Imagine one hunter from your tribe never returns after an encounter with another group. His family remembers. Years later, an opportunity appears. Someone decides to settle the score. Now the other tribe is carrying the same memory. They remember too. Eventually, almost nobody remembers exactly how the conflict began, only that every new loss demands another response. Cycles of conflict have a remarkable way of sustaining themselves. Here's another factor people rarely consider: reputation. Imagine neighboring tribes know your group never responds to aggression. What happens? You begin to look vulnerable. Food stores become easier to raid. Territory becomes easier to challenge. But if your tribe develops a reputation for defending itself fiercely, others may decide you're not worth the risk. In that sense, the possibility of violence sometimes prevented actual violence. Strength became a warning, not just a weapon. Now here's something fascinating from evolutionary psychology. Humans are unusually good at cooperating in large groups. That's one of our greatest strengths. But cooperation often comes with an unintended consequence. The stronger the bond inside your group, the easier it becomes to see outsiders as different, us and them. That instinct probably helped small tribes survive. Trust the people you've known your whole life. Be cautious around strangers. But under pressure, caution can become hostility, and hostility can become conflict. Of course, prehistoric tribes didn't only fight each other, they also traded. Shared knowledge, exchanged tools, found mates in neighboring groups. If humans had done nothing but fight, civilization never would have emerged. Cooperation was always more important than conflict. That's why the archaeological evidence tells such a complicated story. Some regions show repeated violence. Others show centuries of peaceful interaction. Different environments created different pressures. A fertile river valley with abundant resources encourages sharing. A freezing landscape with little food creates much harder decisions. So why did prehistoric tribes go to war? The honest answer is that they probably fought for the same reasons humans still do: to protect their families, to secure resources, to defend territory, to seek revenge, to survive. The weapons were different, the numbers were smaller, but the emotions were remarkably familiar. Fear, hope, loss, loyalty, love. And maybe that's the strangest part of the story. When we imagine prehistoric warfare, it's easy to picture violent strangers fighting over an ancient landscape. But those people weren't so different from us. Every person holding a spear had someone waiting for them back at camp, someone they wanted to protect, someone they hoped to return to. War has changed enormously over tens of thousands of years. Stone spears became bronze swords, bronze became steel, steel became gunpowder, and eventually, missiles. But underneath all of that technology, the hardest decisions remained almost exactly the same. How far will people go to protect the ones they love? For as long as humans have lived in groups, we've been searching for the answer, sometimes through cooperation, sometimes through conflict, and almost always through the simple hope that tomorrow would be a little safer than today.